welcome back to my channel. I have now had my Fujifilm X-E5 for about 2 weeks or so now. I literally got it 2 days before we left for vacation, so it was perfect for me to test out using it there and just how well it would work. Now, I took on vacation with me my two main cameras. I took my X-E5 with a couple lenses, so I took this 18mm f2. I took my 35 1.4, and I took my 56 1.2 only for certain scenarios. So we went to Disney World, if that gives you some better idea. And then I took my X100VI. And the only other thing, my husband did take the G7X, but that's because we film all of our trips to have memories and everything, so he did all that. And then I did also take my little Nikon film camera, which I really only used about 1 day of our trip. Part of the reason, and I have learned my lesson not to go during hurricane season again. So I feel like a lot of the issues we had were actually more due to the weather than anything else. It was at any given moment every day, either a heat index with humidity of well over 100 or storming. So you had like two extremes and it was difficult. Now, looking back at all of the photos that I have taken on this trip, which I will try and insert here in the video, I may insert them all towards the end and just have them like specified by which camera took them. I feel like I took about the same amount on both cameras, which is different from what I've done in the past. And also the film camera, those photos will not be in here because I didn't finish the roll, so that'll be some other time when I finally finish it. But in the past, when I took, a few years ago I took my V, and then last year I took my 6, and then this year I took my 6. I had also taken, 1 year I took my X-T32 as well, with a couple lenses. And then last year I took my X-T4 with a couple lenses, and I really barely used those at all on the trips. Now, to be fair, I didn't have the 18f2, so I only had bigger lenses anyway, but I felt like the X-T4 was just too big to keep in my bag with me. That was part of the reason. And the X-T32 was great, but I felt like I was getting the photos I wanted out of the X100V, and I was fine with that. I do think a lot of it has been a little different now because on top of the weather, which I explained, the weather also meant that the lighting was really crazy. It was either so harsh and sunny that the photos were a little off, or it was like just gray and boring. And to be fair, I've been to Disney World so many times because we go to visit my family every year that I have taken all these photos many times. So I really want like nice, unique lighting. And I did get some after some of the storms, so you'll see those. But I think that also didn't inspire me the most. Now I did use I've used both of these for some of the character photos and shows, but majority of what I did with this 56 was when there was a parade and a show that we were watching. I used this lens only. I had my X100VI and I would pull it up occasionally for a wide shot, but I used that, and then I used my digital teleconverter, which I have mapped to this button right here, because that's easier for me to use than the front button that I forget exists. And I got a lot of really great photos. However, it was the harshest point of the day with sun and everything, so I did end up editing those myself instead of relying on the film simulations. But to that point, I also feel like this absolutely makes me feel better about taking my Fuji cameras and using the film simulations and just using JPEGs versus RAWs and editing, because sometimes I do go, wow, I wonder what it'd be like to take my Canon R8 and a nice lens with me. I don't think it would make that much of a difference, to be honest, especially in such a busy place as Disney World. I did think the 18mm was great because you could get wider shots with everything in. That's not normally my preferred focal length, but in Disney World, when you're traveling and trying to avoid crowds but still get everything in and not have to scoot really far back, a wider lens is helpful. With all those show and parade photos and everything, we've been back for a while now. I only just put them in my computer and started editing them. So it's taken me that long to even get to those photos, and that is a small percentage of all the photos we took on our trip. So I feel like it's so much easier because you got Wi-Fi and upload speeds down there, whether we're staying with my cousins or wherever we were at, were not great, especially the upload speeds. So trying to get them to load into Lightroom and Lightroom to work was a challenge. Having the ability to just have these straight out of camera JPEGs that look nice and I can pull them off and share them with friends and family right away was perfect. And that's really why I love these cameras for travel especially. I love my Canon gear, don't get me wrong, but I don't love editing. I really don't. I've done it for a long time and I just don't love it. And I found that, it's really nice, especially for just personal photos on vacation, to be able to just be like, here's my photos. They're good. I like them. The only other time I edited photos from this trip was one specific place that we went. It's called the Cake Bake Shop, and it's at the Boardwalk Resort. It is themed to be very like light and airy. It's like white, gold, pink. It did have the fall decorations up, which I didn't love because I love fall, but I don't love the colors. But I did take those off because also with the storms coming in, it's like an all glass kind of building and it got really dark. I did edit all of those in Lightroom just to make them look more like the vibe of the restaurant. So those ones are edited, and then the like parade and show photos are edited, but all the other like character interactions that I just happened upon or any of the other photos, I didn't touch them. It's just straight out camera. And I did mostly use Portra 400 version 2, which is what I've used in the past there. I feel like it does pull the colors in Disney World really well. It does depend on the lighting. There were a few times where I was like, maybe I'll try Summer Chrome because it's really gloomy and gray. Just different things like that. And then I did use Reggie's Portra if I was indoor or like at night a lot of times. We did also go to both the older two Universal parks. I keep forgetting there's a new one now. We didn't go to that one. So we did those for my husband's birthday. And I did take a lot there as well. That was also really crowded. Disney was less crowded because I think it's because we did it during the week. But those I did get a lot as well, and I'm very happy with them. So that was something different, but I don't feel like those parks are quite as photogenic unless you're in the very specific areas like in Harry Potter parts or things like that. And then those are the parts that are so crowded because they are the most themed parts that everybody goes to. So that was a little more of a challenge. I know if you use a zoomed in lens, like for compression, you can kind of not have as many people in your photos, but I kind of wanted the whole picture, not just like little zoomed in shots of things. I tried that. It wasn't my vibe there. And then the other thing I've learned with both of these cameras is that, and honestly, any of my newest Fuji cameras, the 40 megapixel sensor is great. However, if you set the grain setting to strong or rough, I feel like it's overwhelming. It's just my opinion, at least. So I have actually dialed that back on all of my recipes in my Fuji cameras to be small and weak because I just feel like that looks better. I feel like for some reason in these cameras, it pulls so much stronger. And maybe that has to do with the sensor size. I don't really know. But I didn't used to notice it on my older cameras, and I'm noticing it now. I did also have to take the clarity settings off a few of them just because if you're trying to get quick shots, that kind of gets in the way. And sometimes when you're in a theme park and I hand my camera or my camera to my husband and I say, here, grab a photo really quick. I'm trying to jump in a spot with no people. If he has to wait for the clarity setting to clear, that's a problem. So that's another thing. I told you guys before that I had been teaching him how to use more manual camera settings on my X100V. This trip was so much easier because I had the settings about where I needed them, but I could just hand him my cameras and he would go, oh wait, this is a little too dark or this is a little too light. Let me fix that. It was great. It was so much easier. He understands more of the composition now. He understands the settings now, which is huge because when I have to try and set it, I used to have him stand in, set all the settings, and then hand it to him. You know, sometimes the lighting can change really fast if a cloud comes over, things like that. So it was really great having him do that. I even was able to hand off my X-E5, and again, with just this 18mm lens, to a couple of people to take our photos for us, which was also great. And it really helped when you're trying to get like the Spaceship Earth in Epcot or the Tree of Life in Animal Kingdom or the Castle in Magic Kingdom. You're trying to get those in the shot with you. They're really big structures. And same with any vacation you take. When you're trying to get photos in a really like magnificent place that you want more of the background into, a wider lens is super helpful for that. So I think I have changed my thoughts over the years on what I prefer, at least for travel. Like for portraits and like stuff like that, I definitely prefer, and for street photography, I definitely prefer a more zoomed in lens because I want to get right close to people. And portraits, I think it just looks nicer. I really felt like even if I put my 35, which is basically like a 50, if I put that on my camera, it's my favorite lens. I love this lens so much, but you had to get so far back to get a photo of anybody. If you have people like walking in your photos, which is very common when you're traveling and you're in crowded places, things like that, you just don't have the space for that. So that made it so much easier to hand this camera off, even over my X100, as much as I love it. This one is a little more zoomed in. My husband would have to stand quite a bit further back to get photos, and he did, but this one was easier. Again, the main reason I tended to grab this camera over my X-E5 was really because of the weather sealing, to be honest. We had a lot of issues with rain and stuff, and I have a weatherproof or like a water pouch in my backpack that I kept this in when I wasn't using it so that if we did get caught in a rainstorm, this was still covered. And yeah, it mostly depended on, do I want a wide shot or a little bit more zoomed in, but also do I need weather sealing was really what I was looking at. And it was, I know people are going to say, well, you could just do that with one camera. Yes, but I also liked the fact that I didn't have to switch lenses because I was really trying hard not to do that out in the heat and humidity and the elements and everything. Like, it was easy to just be like, this is already ready to go and this is already ready to go. The few times I had to change the lens on this, I was like, okay, I gotta do this really carefully. So it just made things easier. I do think, while this 18mm f2 lens is a little old, it's great. It's a great lens. It's sharp, it's good, it's loud, but it's great. And I know people are still saying like, yeah, this camera would be so much better if it had weather sealing. I don't disagree with that. However, for me, it wouldn't help me because my lenses aren't weather sealed. I only have, I think it's my 18-1.4, which is a heavy lens, and then my 50-140, which I don't carry around with me. Those are my only weather sealed lenses. So that wouldn't really help me. And I know that the new kit lens that came with this, I think is weather sealed. So that's fine. But again, even if it gets a few drops in it, I don't think that's gonna be that big of a deal. I still was just over cautious and over careful. And since I have my X100VI, it made sense to just grab that out. And to the people who are gonna say, why don't you sell this? It's not happening. For one, I do like it for situations like where you have to take a camera that has no detachable lenses, because I have had places ask for people who've said that. On top of that, this was a gift from my husband. It has extreme sentimental value to me. So this is never being sold. But these are now probably the two cameras I will grab for just about anything. This one, I want the flexibility of lenses, or I need the flip-up screen, or the flip-up screen is huge. I did use it a couple times, not as many on this trip, just because I didn't bring a tripod into Disney World. You can. You actually can. But I did not. I do think it's a little bit finicky. The one on the X70 is much easier to flip up, but I did have a couple times where I was like, hey, let's get a photo together, and I pulled it out. Just like the rules of photography, like those two times where I did it, he was not right near me because we were on a ride. And so one of us was in focus and the other was kind of out of focus, but that's just more, an 18 is still kind of zoomed in for a selfie. So I did use it for that a couple times, but mostly I didn't. Most of the time I just handed my camera to someone and asked them to take a photo of us. So again, both of these were great. I really took about the same amount of photos, which is different from any of my other trips where like my other Fuji camera would stay in my bag most of the time. And a lot of it, yes, was the weather, and just the lighting and everything wasn't as inspiring this trip. But we got some great photos. I really didn't use my phone all that much for photos. I know people always say just use your phone, but if you're a photographer, you just get it. Like, it's not the same. I don't want to use my phone. Yeah, sometimes it is the best option in a pinch when I just need to hand something off to someone really quick or something, and it's fine, because I don't want to have to explain my camera. I did have to kind of explain my camera to a couple people, like the guy at the restaurant who took our photo, things like that. It's fine. And I don't feel like the autofocus really missed much either, which is also great. Like this one especially, this one does jump a lot. It finds people fast. But I don't feel like it really missed autofocus a lot in any way that I was missing shots. So it worked out great. I'm going to insert some photos here. I'll put them based on which camera they were. And you can kind of tell 9 times out of 10, it's going to be this 18mm lens. The only ones that you'll be able to tell how zoomed in they are, they're the 56. Easy enough. But yeah, I hope you enjoy. I really love both these cameras. I think they're both wonderful cameras. And again, I think, like I mentioned in my last video, with really any of these Fuji cameras, you can't go wrong. It's just personal preference on how you like the features and things. Yes, I liked that this one has a viewfinder now, but would I be fine without it? Probably, because a lot of times I had to like lift my camera up and things like that where I couldn't get to the viewfinder anyway. So yeah, there were times where I wished I could get a shot from down below and pull the screen out, but neither of these cameras have that, and that's okay. It didn't stop me from getting great photos. So I really think you can't go wrong with any of these. If you have any more questions, let me know. I'm going to try and make some more content with this, but just as an initial thought after using it, I love it. I love it so much. It really has answered all the questions I asked for from Fuji. I still will use, like, my X-M5 is what I'm filming on right now. That's probably what it's going to stay as, is our filming camera, because my husband's going to start doing more video. I'm selling my X-T50 because now I don't need it. And then X-T4 I saved because it is the more professional 2-card slot, bigger battery. And then my X Pro 3, 2-card slot, weather sealed. The X Pro 3 is just a fun one. That's the only way I can explain it. I keep it because it's just fun. I don't know that I would necessarily need an X Pro 4 because I'm fine with the cameras I have, especially now that I have this. And this really, my biggest issues before, and I explained this in my last video, we're debating with my X100VI, do I also bring my XM5 or my X-T50, because they each had different things I wanted. This took care of all of that in one camera for me personally. Now, for everybody else, that may not be the case, and that's okay. But for me, that's what did it, and I love these. Now, the only thing I want from Fuji is an updated X70, because I do still love my X70, especially now that places are getting really strict on what you can bring into venues and things. If I hadn't updated one, it'd be amazing. So I did also, sorry, random thought here. I did use the flash on this like once for a photo. It was fine, but I really try not to. The other than that, I think my husband and I used flash like twice to get me in a photo with the G7X that he had, just because it was easy to do. It's fine. I don't really use flash, so the fact that this doesn't have one really doesn't bother me. But anyway, that's my thoughts on these two. And also, I love these little rope straps from Amazon. I had them on both my cameras on this trip, so if you're looking, this one does come with an amazing rope strap as it is, so everything's linked though if you're interested in any of the accessories that I have. I did get the thumb grip. That's probably the other thing I forgot to mention. Sorry, this is a little all over the place. I did get the small rig thumb grip for this so that I do not need any sort of body grip. This is just fine. And I don't feel like I'm missing any access to any dials or anything, so that's great. And then I just have the LensMate one still for my X100VI because it has the hinge. So I did put screen protectors on them, but that's it. Didn't really bring any other extra accessories with it, and I loved it. So hope that helps.